Good morning, and on behalf of Mobility Ways, welcome to this latest Thought Leadership webinar. Many thanks for your participation. The aim of these regular sessions is to support sustainability learning and invite collaboration on transport and decarbonisation topics. For those new to Mobility Ways, we are a leader in transport decarbonisation and the leader in tackling commuting emissions through our comprehensive Measure, Reduce, Report framework. Through tech-enabled tools and data-led processes, Mobility Ways helps places and organisations reduce commuting carbon whilst delivering tangible operational benefits, particularly in areas relating to estate management, resourcing, inclusion and employee well-being. By surfacing and personalising sustainable commuting choices, Mobility Ways is enabling businesses to develop robust engagement plans with data often supporting business cases and approvals for new workforce mobility solutions spanning carpooling, shuttle buses and bike services. Hence today's webinar, How Improved Bike Access Can Enable Behaviour Change. I'm delighted to be joined today by Illuminati from the two-wheeled world. Huge thanks and welcome to Sam Coldham, Business Development Manager at Brompton Bike Hire. Brompton, I'm sure, needs no introduction. However, what they offer in the enterprise space might not be known by all. Welcome to Jamie Milroy, CEO and founder of Dash Rides, who, according to their website, provide probably the UK's #1 cycle-to-work platform. Carlsberg vibes, I approve. Both will update on how respectively their businesses are supporting workforces to access and experience bikes, but also very excitingly, how Brompton and Dash are combining to take cycling to the next level. The partnership was only announced last week, so doubly delighted that Sam and Jamie are sharing hot off the press details today. Sam, then Jamie will present for around 30 minutes, leaving good time for questions, so please add these along with general queries and comments as they come to you via the Q&A function. I think also there's an upvote facility so you can vote for the questions that you really want to hear answered. Obviously, if we don't get to all questions and queries during the webinar, we will follow up over email, plus with this session being recorded, a link to the video will be circulated. Right then, time for me to slot in behind the better riders. Sam, over to you.
Good morning, everyone, and good morning, Graham and the Mobility Ways team. Thanks for having us and Brompton. So I'm Sam, I'm the Business Development Manager for Brompton Bike Hire. We're a purpose-led part of the organisation, what we like to call bums on saddles. I thought I'd do something a little bit different these days than just presenting some slides. I'm going to show you a case study video that we created with a company called Taya. Taya are a super passionate payment provider based in London, looking at how they're moving around, looking at how they're marketing to their clients, and hopefully with the power of technology, we can show a video now of what they're doing for Brompton Bikes and why.
Hello and welcome to Taya, House of Taya. My name is Dico. I'm the CBO of the company. It's such a pleasure to have this collaboration, Taya and Brompton. We are a company dedicated to small local business in Europe. We are all about buy local. So Brompton fits perfectly into this. Why Brompton? Oh, this is amazing. First of all, it's incredible to ride. I didn't expect to be so good. It folds so well. You can carry train, buses, meeting rooms, handmade in London with a lot of love. We can feel it. The main reason why you have the Bromptons here is to motivate the team to commute by bicycles. But we also found that this is an amazing way to visit our members without worrying about parking the car, taking a bus or two. I even carry in the bag there our journal, some terminals. It makes a very nice impression when we arrive with the Brompton, Lime Bromptons, Taya Bromptons. Some people arrive with their cars, we arrive with Bromptons.
I'm very fortunate to have been working closely with Dico, so we get to ride these bikes quite a lot. We use it for commuting a couple of times. We sometimes go visit our members. And we've also taken the bikes for a spin as a team, just for a little bit of a team building kind of experience. Before I got on the bike, I was a bit of a skeptic, but after learning how to unfold it, getting on and riding for a little bit, honestly, I was really surprised by how the ride felt. It was really a pleasant experience, and it feels like quality. It feels like a sturdy, solid piece of kit.
So I was part of the design team that built the brand of Taya, and we chose the lime color because it's really nice and vibrant and just something different that's out there in the market.
I really enjoy it. It's super light, something that's very easy to maintain. I can carry with me anywhere. Whenever I go into the supermarket, I bring inside the pack things, put in my bag that is integrated, and I just roll. It's something that I want to keep for my life.
Brompton is amazing. It's obviously very convenient. I can fold it up and put it on the train. And actually, I use my Brompton to go to all of my London meetings. So I now no longer get the tube. I cycle all across London several times a week, my meetings, and it's much faster, much more convenient, and hopefully a bit healthier.
It's created a sense of community in the office with a few of us that use the bike. It's something I now attribute to the workplace and the people I work with, and we sometimes go out and see merchants on the Brompton, which has been a nice experience. Well, they started to recognize the bikes and associate it with Taya as well, particularly because of the lime green color, which is something that really stands out.
Dico introduced me to the Bromptons. I started coming to work with the Bromptons once or twice a week, and it's been fun.
As Brompton is made for cities, it is also made for Taya. Thank you very much, Brompton, to help us on our mission to help small and local businesses to thrive. You're an important tool to connect and bridge our employees to our merchants. I can feel that everyone here in the office is very happy. They feel good about cycling. It's good for their bodies, their minds as well. So thank you very much for this partnership.
There we go. Well, Taya's done my job for me. And it just shows kind of when you build that community and you build a brand, bikes can fit in nicely. So there's a few slides I'm going to go through today that should highlight probably what Taya have told you in that video, and really how the Brompton can fit in with other companies and what they're doing around the world. So if we can go on to the next slide, the next one, please. So a little bit more about Brompton. I'm sure all of you have probably seen a Brompton or heard of a Brompton, but it's an iconic folding bike, and our tagline really is, we create urban freedom for happier lives, mainly around our communities, our cities, with the sole purpose of better transport choices. This isn't death to cars, this is better transport choices, healthier lives. If we can move on to the next slide. We're also a B Corp. So B Corp it's not just about sustainability, it's about investment into communities, investment into people, investment into the employees. Why a Brompton? If you haven't seen one, here it is, a nice yuzu one, not the Taya one, but it is a yuzu lime one. Folds down, ideally in under 20 seconds, depending on how many times you folded it and how many practice. Someone can do it in 5. I take around 15 to 20 seconds. I'm pretty slow, but it's small, it's compact, it's designed, and it's been built for the last 50 years with one purpose, which is quality. We don't want to be making bikes and replacing bikes every year. We want to be making bikes that last, that are good for the planet, they're good for people, and they can have them for a lifetime, which some do. Next slide, please. So Taya highlighted this. Bikes are good for just about every part of your kind of commute and life. It's good for your well-being. Obviously, you're physically active. It folds down small, so you can take it everywhere. Like the gentleman said, you can take it into the supermarket, take it on trains, you can take it on buses. If you're looking at kind of first, last mile, this would be the bike of choice. You can add it to any other part, which is a good conversation to have with employees as well. You don't have to completely end your love affair with a car or bus or train, but you can add it to that journey to make sure you can get it anywhere in the world, really. It does go on a plane as well, if you wanted to. We have been making bikes in London since 1975. And like Mobility Ways is a leader in their industry, we're a leader in our industry. We are the largest bike manufacturer in the UK, and I'm pretty sure the largest folding bike manufacturer in Europe. But don't quote me on that one quite yet. Next slide, please. A lot of our partnerships are done with employee wellness and benefit packages. So when looking at how can we attract people back to the office, or how can we get people moving, adding a Brompton or a fleet of Bromptons to a benefits package. Here's a load of bikes that you can use. Give it a go, see what you think, have a bit of fun. Don't just use it as a commute. Use it to go and have lunch somewhere else that you wouldn't normally go to. Maybe it's a bit further away. Maybe you want to go and visit a new location and you've only got an hour. Great. Taya, for example, is across the road from Borough. It's easier to cycle, and you could be in Borough Market in London quicker on a bike, which means you get more time for lunch. It's just a better way of doing things and seeing more of the area around you. Next slide, please. So I'm hopefully going to run through some partnership opportunities and some exciting ways we're partnering with companies. Next one, please. Before we do that, though, it takes up about 20% of the space. So if you look at bike parking spaces, you can get 5 times as many Bromptons in as you would a fixed frame. 30 minutes of cardiovascular health burns up to 500 calories. You can normally save time on a Brompton. Not only save time, but if you're combining it with a train, for example, rather than sitting in traffic, you can do work. And also you're more likely to take less sick days. Next slide, please. And here's some offerings that we work with partners on, and they range from basic kind of supply bikes all the way through to some big fancy infrastructure stuff. So next slide, please. So we've got 3 offerings. Custom fleets. So Taya would be down as a custom fleet. We've then got a subscription package, which is a little bit like I suppose a hire or a long-term loan of a bike, or fleets of bikes. And then we've got our hire lockers, and some of you may have seen that depending on where you are in the UK or in the world. We do have some abroad as well. Next slide, please. So here's custom bike fleets. As you saw with Taya, at the time of them buying it, and still now, the Yuzu lime doesn't exist. We had to spray those individually, and also they have their logo decals on them. They also have logoed bags as well. So it's quite a bespoke way of doing things, but it means that their customers know that when they see a Yuzu lime Taya bike, a Taya employee is there, and they're coming to say, hi, how are you? And visit their clients to make sure all is okay. Next slide, please. Brompton subscription. So you can subscribe to a Brompton individually. So if anyone wants to go and subscribe to a Brompton, Google it, you can, but you can also get a fleet of Bromptons, and a company could subscribe. So anything kind of 4 upwards, and for a minimum of 6 months, you could have a number of bikes. And the way we do it is a bit like Henry Ford. You can have any color you want as long as it's black. So all subscription bikes are black, with the idea that we can use them as with different and multiple companies at the same time. Next slide, please. And then you've got the hire lockers. So we have a dedicated app, a big bit of infrastructure that can sit outside, is available 24/7, either for public use or private use. So 96 locations across the UK. All are available public. It's £5 a day. However, if a company wants a private dock, they can definitely have that. And we have some private docks with some large financial institutions like Barclays. What we've also done as well is we've combined a couple of things recently. And apologies, I don't have a slide on this one yet because I don't have any nice pictures, but we take the technology from our Brompton dock and the simple infrastructure that you saw in the Taya video with the kind of 9-bay part. And we add a small dongle, and you can create an in-house virtual dock, we call it. And we've added another layer to that, which is tracking as well. So currently the bikes in the lockers aren't tracked, but for HSBC, we're running a trial with C-Sense to offer tracking of the bikes. So you know where the bike is, not the person. They're not interlinked with the person and the bike, but the company, HSBC, know that how many miles they've done, where the bikes have been, where the bikes are. So then they can add another layer of reporting back to their Scope 3 reductions. If you can go to the next slide. And then we have some storage. So if you have Bromptons and you're looking to store them, we have some official Brompton storage lockers. Next slide, please. So here's some brands we're working with and some different kind of opportunities and maybe can be replicated, maybe we can take inspiration from. So next slide. Deloitte. So a really interesting one. We work with them in Belgium. In Belgium, there's a little bit more pressure on companies to offer mobility in packages and funding. So Brompton and Deloitte teamed up with the Belgian offices to offer all staff the opportunity to either have a Brompton electric, an electric car, or a season ticket for the trains. 175-ish per year people pick to have a Brompton in Deloitte, Belgium. So here's a nice apple green and black Deloitte Brompton. Really exciting thing to do. It's mainly offered graduates as well, so kind of start young and influence how they're traveling. Next slide, please. Santander, unfortunately, I don't have a nice picture of Santander bikes, but they're white and red, like Santander bikes. Their finance team have them to visit clients, so they will take a train or they will drive to a city, and then they'll unfold the bike out their boot or take it off the train, and they're electric bikes, so they get about 50 kilometers range, and they poodle around the city, do all their visits, and then they go back the same way. So it's that kind of first last mile part. Next slide, please. This was a really exciting one. So Prudential in Singapore purchased 250 bikes as part of the Tour de France Singapore collaboration that was going on. They then gifted the bikes to their top performers and their top clients. The bikes there are white and red, like their branding, opposite way around to the Santander bikes. They were red and white. And they had a nice little plaque on the back that said the employee name and the bike number. So how many numbers of bikes they did. Really nice little detail that we can do. Again, a bespoke bike. Next one, please. Here's Taya. Don't need to tell you any more about Taya. Just had a video on them. Deutsche Bahn, really cool little project with Deutsche Bahn. Love to replicate it in the UK. We are doing it with SNCF in France, and we are doing it with Renfe in Spain. But you can get a Brompton and a monthly season ticket for €90. Brompton turns up at your door. Yeah, incredible partnership, and it's led to about 1,000 bikes being in Germany on subscription at any one time. So 1,000 people out there are trying Bromptons and having multimodal journeys. Next slide, please. NHS, again, may have heard of this, but we did Wheels for Heroes. We crowdfunded and part-funded 1,000 bikes during COVID to make sure doctors and nurses can get to hospitals. As they've gradually come back, people have gone back on buses and tubes. We're now not only doing it at St. Bart's, but there's a number of hospitals and trusts out there that have got bikes that are blue and white like these bikes, and they're used as a trial to try a bike out. Here's a Brompton, have a go. After 6 months, if you like it, we then work with the trust to then transition to bike ownership. Next slide, please. I think I've got 1 or 2. Yeah, Enterprise. So they have a set of bikes that you can have a car and a bike at the same time. So if you go into the lakes for the weekend, you can take the car and the bike, you can park up at your hotel, and then you can go and cycle around on the Brompton. Next one, and then Hoxton. So yeah, partners like Hoxton and hotel groups are really interesting. You get to a hotel in the city. How do you go and see as much of the city as possible? Well, you can take a bike. It's much easier than walking to be able to see as many locations. So all the Hoxtons in London have Bromptons that guests can just borrow for the day or for the week. I think I'm about that. Oh no, Oyster yachts. Anyone with a yacht or been on a yacht will know there's a lazarette. I had to Google what it was, but the Laz is perfect for your surfboards, paddleboards, any other kind of bits and bobs, and a Brompton can fit in nicely. So Oyster were our first partners in this. It's a bespoke bike, so that color doesn't normally exist on the P line, and it also has the Oyster yacht logo. So when you're buying a yacht for Oyster, I'm not sure anyone here, I would love to, but you may one day buy an Oyster yacht. You can spec up to have a Brompton there. And I think that is it. What's really important, and I hope that came home from all the slides, is the community aspect. To build this kind of community around it. If you put a load of bikes in and hope for the best, it doesn't really work. What you have to build is this like a community leading people. And then also the next step. So what happens after someone's tried a bike? So with Taya, they have cycle to work. So here's a bike, have a go. You love it, great. Not sure on the folding, okay, you get fixed frame. Here's cycle to work scheme. And something we've recently done, and Jamie's going to talk about and go into more detail of, because I don't really understand the technology around it, but it's an incredible bit of kit and it's an amazing way of doing things, is partnering with Dash. So not only do they offer a way to get into bike purchasing, but also if you want to try a bike, so our Brompton bike hire lockers, for example, you can now try the bike through Cycle to Work, so you can save even more money. So it's not £5 a day anymore for Brompton bike hire. It's less than that depending on your percentage off. And I'm going to pass over to JB because he's going to be able to explain way more than me.
Yeah, no, thanks very much, Sam. And hello everyone, delighted to be here. So yeah, I'm Jamie, I'm one of the founders here at Dash. We're not yet quite as iconic as Brompton, I will admit, but I certainly describe us as a leader in the cycle to work space. That's certainly what the employee benefits professionals tell us, and indeed current and prospective clients. And our inachievable mission as a business is to get more people cycling. Unfortunately, there will always be someone else we can try and incentivize to get cycling. We'll never get everyone, sorry. But it is something we're thoroughly committed to and think is a very worthwhile endeavor. We're very much focused on the cycle to work scheme. So thinking about, people in and around the workplace and how we change their behavior and encourage more of them to cycle. And if you could flip over onto the next slide, please. This is why I'm here today, as Sam alluded to. So we've got a product called Dash Flex, and recently done a partnership with Brompton Bike Hire that allows users of this product to now access their lockers. And as Sam was saying, it turns the sort of £5 per day rental into something just over £3.30 per day. So you're getting into your daily coffee territory, and that's for a basic rate taxpayer. So if you're earning, if you're at a higher or additional rate, it would be even less. But what Dash Flex is as a product is it's a monthly spending allowance paid for via salary sacrifice using the Cycle to Work scheme. And it allows users to access any and all bike share providers in the UK. So Brompton Bike Hire, clearly a big one, but others like Forest, Lime, Santander Bikes in London, Beryl Bikes dotted around the country. And without forcing employees to choose between providers as well. So you could ride, for instance, a Brompton Bike Hire bike one day. You could then go and ride a Lime bike to the office the next morning, a Forest bike later that evening. So it just gives people sort of this unbridled flexibility, which is a much truer reflection of how people tend to use those services. It's much more based on sort of convenience in any given moment, rather than a very fixed long-term commitment, especially where there's multiple operators operating in any given city. So yeah, for those employers that are also really looking forward to drive cycling uptake, you can also subsidise the cost of this for your employees, and we've seen organisations contributing as little as sort of £20–30 a month. So you're talking less than 1% of someone's salary. You get 3 times the uptake or indeed more. So it's a really, really powerful tool to get more people cycling more often. And yeah, this is a unique product to Dash, and something we're incredibly proud of. It's taken us a long time to sort of build it and develop the technology, and make it as easy to use as it is. But if you could click over onto the next slide. Yeah, Dash Flex is just one product within our much wider Cycle to Work offering, which is complete Cycle to Work platform, which we call Dash Store. And Dash Store is designed to make Cycle to Work more appealing and accessible than ever before, by giving employees more choice, more flexibility, more convenience, and more clarity. And what this means in practice is that we've made using Cycle to Work as simple and easy to use as online shopping. You simply browse through all the eligible products, add what you want to your basket, and check out. But rather than entering your payment, your credit card or debit card details at the end, you're signing your hire agreement, which goes off to your employer for approval. But giving people that sort of familiar, intuitive, fast experience that shows them exactly what's eligible brings the scheme into the modern day. There are no vouchers, no confusing process, no restrictions on having to order from a single retailer or even just, once per year. So it enables employees to get exactly what they need whenever they need it. So yeah, huge upgrade on the scheme as far as we're concerned. And for employers, we've delivered all that sort of increased flexibility for employees while also managing to save you admin and time. So not only are you getting a much better benefit for your employees to access, there's also some efficiency savings for you to have as well, managing the scheme. And we work with organizations of all shapes and sizes, from companies with just 1 or 2 people, right the way up to organizations with well over 30,000, across all different industries, public and private. So yeah, we're delivering the scheme for everyone really. Yeah, on our mission to get more people cycling. If you could flick over to the next slide. So as I say, our mission is to get more people cycling, and equally each of those people to cycle as often as they possibly can. And when you think about cyclists, they're actually an incredibly diverse group of people, covering far more than just those which have an affinity for lycra-based products. There are certainly that cohort of people out there, and they love their bikes. But for many people, that's not what they see cycling as. They see it as a mode of transport to get from A to B. And that's why, because of that diverse group of that cyclists actually is, we give employees more ways to access a bike than any other cycle to work provider in the UK. You can absolutely go down the traditional route, which would be the centre category here, shopping. Those people are looking to sort of own their bikes or buy their bikes eventually. But for many people, yeah, that doesn't work. So what we've also got is subscription on the left and bike share on the right. We've obviously touched on bike share, but this is a very popular and rapidly growing sort of sector of the cycling market, which offers pure unbridled convenience at a cost. But for those people, it might be that the people who use that, it tends to be they'll either use those services or they won't cycle at all. So by us having our Dash Flex product, we can give them access to those services and just lower that price point for them such that they can cycle more often. And then we've also got our subscription category, which is, again, quite unique to Dash in how we deliver that. And if you can flick over onto the next slide, please. So subscription, if traditional cycle to work is you sort of buying your bike or going down that route, then subscription is a pure rental. You can commit for as little as a month, and the prices start as low as £25 a month. So it really is making e-bikes specifically much more affordable and accessible, particularly if you've got, as an organization, got people that are close to the minimum wage threshold. This is a great way of ensuring that those individuals can still access good quality e-bikes. But subscriptions come with everything you need to get cycling. So helmet, lock, will insure the bike on your behalf. Anything goes wrong, we'll pay to have it fixed. If it can't be fixed, we'll give you a new one, and we'll service it annually. And there's a fantastic range of bikes that people can choose from, ensuring that whatever the use case or the sort of desire is to cycle, there's a bike on there for them. So you'll see there's a Brompton for maybe those individuals who are looking to sort of use the train or the bus and then cycle a bit. We've got family style e-bikes on those for people who need to combine commute to the office with the school run and everything in between, really. So it's a very different proposition, appeals to a very different demographic than the traditional cycle to work offering. So when you put it together, the subscriptions, the shopping and the bike share, we're really ensuring that we appeal to that broadest possible church of people and deliver on our mission to get more people cycling, whatever their needs are, really. If you can flick over again. These are some of my favorite stats, and I'd be remiss not to sort of touch on some of them. So looking at subscriptions, we really target, when we're looking at subscriptions, we're really targeting those people who are potentially new to cycling or haven't cycled for a very long time. And we give them the flexibility to commit for different lengths. 1 and 3 months are the shortest commitments we offer. And if you look at the average length of time those individuals go on to be on a subscription for, it's 9 months and just over 9 months and just over 11 months respectively. Now, they may not stay on the 1 and 3 month commitment prices during that time. They might upgrade and get a better price. But what's interesting about those two numbers for me is had those individuals known they were going to cycle on a subscription for that length of time going in, they would have selected a longer commitment period to benefit from that better price. So what this shows us as an organisation is that by offering that sort of low entry point in terms of commitment, it's actually fantastically powerful at driving people to have a go at cycling and give it a go. And then once they're on the bikes do all the hard work for us, to be honest, in terms of keeping people cycling. So that's why they go on to cycle for much longer than they expected. And then there's actually a very strong correlation between those people who are starting on a subscription, going off and using the more traditional offering of cycle to work, as everyone knows it, in terms of getting a bike that's theirs for a much longer period. When it comes to e-bikes, there's sometimes a bit of stigma that sort of cyclists throw at people using e-bikes, which is that they're cheating somehow. I can understand the sort of, bit of banter that represents, but it can be quite unhelpful for those who are sort of new to cycling or thinking about getting involved if there's this negative connotation behind using an e-bike. And actually, the data would suggest it's far from cheating, because those people who are riding an e-bike will, on average, cycle 96% further than their traditional, human-powered cycles do. They'll use them twice as often, and those two combined mean that actually, over a given period of time, people riding e-bikes burn 9% more calories than traditional cyclists, not less. So they are not only a fantastic tool to get people cycling, but also a great way for people to stay fit and healthy. And that leads me nicely onto the cycling. People who cycle to work can typically save around £1,000 a year in terms of their commuting costs, which, put another way, is sort of equivalent to you having to get a £1,500 pay rise out of your organisation. So something, there's a real financial well-being aspect to this for sure. And a recent study that was published in the British Medical Journal it was over about 20 years, covering 80,000 participants, found that cyclists had a 20% lower risk of mental health disease and just under 50% reduction in all-cause mortality over that period as well. So I'm sure that as an audience today, we're very much on the sustainability and travel sort of sides of the agenda, but these points really sort of lend themselves to your colleagues in maybe benefits or HR or well-being, and that's a fantastic thing to sort of recognise, because it means that you might have your agenda in terms of getting more people cycling for reduced car parking spaces or lower CO2 or particulate matter emissions, but this means you can bring some of those colleagues from benefits, HR, etc., into the fray and present that really joined up business case and comms to your employees to get more people cycling. And we find that when there's that joined up approach coming from multiple different angles, that's when you really start to see behaviour change. So yeah, it's very helpful in my experience. And if you go to the final slide, thank you very much for hearing me out. And I think we're over to the Q&A now.
Yes, thank you, Jamie. Fantastic. Thank you both for your presentations. Fantastic information. Just before we do, I mean, you can come off for a couple of minutes, Jamie, get a glass of water and all that kind of stuff. But just before we do that, one of the things that referenced at the start was the fact that data is so important. Who are the cohorts of people that can be using forms of sustainable transport? That's a lot of the work that Mobility Ways does. I think we're just going to, whilst we sift through some of the questions and queries that have come through, upvote please those ones you really want to hear answered. I know that Sam's busy answering a couple already. Add additional questions, but whilst we're doing that for a couple of minutes, we're just going to play a video because it's an impact story of some work that we've been undertaking in the NHS, King's Lynn Hospital, and it just encapsulates kind of how these partnerships come together. So for the eagle-eyed in the audience, you may well spot a little reference to Dash. Jack, if you could play the video, please.
Queen Elizabeth Hospital are a large, relatively rurally based hospital with about 4,000 or 5,000 staff coming in every day. So they need to reduce the number of cars coming to the site. They have quite a big challenge at the moment. They need to rebuild their hospital and they're planning to do so on the car park.
Staff are the essence of our hospital. We couldn't do anything without the breadth of staff we've got, and that's not just here, that's across the NHS. I want staff to be able to have the flexibility they want to travel to work, and I want them to be informed about how the best ways of doing that. To do that, we need to capture real data and map where people are moving from.
We have been brought in to help them to achieve that, and we're doing that through a suite of things that we've done historically, as well as some new innovative trials that we're trialling here as part of the Behaviour project, which is supported by Catapult and the DFT.
What Mobility Ways does is help inform our staff about not just the different ways of travelling, but the real impact of green travel.
Many of the tools that we've created, in particular some of the things we've done around lift sharing, can be used at scale across rural areas all across the country.
Lift share is a great tool. It's been around for 25 years and joins people up with colleagues they didn't know they could lift share with. But with Commute Boost and Commute Journal, they can now be incentivised for walking and cycling as well as lift sharing. So we feel that the incentivisation and accurate logging of those other modes of transport is really important to help companies meet their emission goals.
The technology has been fantastic, and it's allowed us to really start to measure the traffic movements of our staff, patients and visitors, because it's all three that we really need to know what's happening. As we start to talk to staff, they understand the reason why we're doing it, and they understand the benefits that actually Mobility Ways and the data that they give us will help us introduce better travel facilities and schemes for the hospital.
Yeah, once will do. Fantastic. Thank you for that. So yeah, moving on, we've got circa 10 minutes, I would say, as a minimum. I mean, there's some good questions coming through, so we won't stop it straight off the bat. But yeah, if Jamie and Sam, you can come back in, that'd be fab. Oh, just got you showing now.
That's a scary thought.
You're on centre stage. Maybe Jack, just stick it back on the Q&A slide, perhaps. But let's get into some of the questions. There's a good question here, which probably can be responded to by both, because it's about metrics, and there were some great stats that you shared there, Jamie. But yeah, have you got any stats data for how your use cases or interventions have enabled behaviour change? Obviously, you mentioned a couple of great stats, but I'm just wondering if there's anything really specific you want to point out. Either of you?
I'm happy to go first. So measuring behaviour change is always really, really difficult, because it requires people participating at the upfront to say how they used to commute and how they currently commute. I think certainly across our sort of more urban or organisations that have a very urban-based employee pool, we've got some fantastic sort of personal stories, about how people have changed their behaviour from using public transport to cycling, or indeed driving to cycling. We haven't collated any sort of mass surveys on this is the exact numbers, but I can point to many individuals who have left us fantastic reviews saying how this has changed their commute and indeed their lives in some cases, just saying how much fitter and healthier they feel as a result, which is obviously very common to cyclists. But yeah, no, unfortunately, I don't have any sort of concrete stats we can share from any studies just yet.
Okay. I mean, just that Kings Lynn project that obviously you're involved in as well, which is fantastic.
Sure.
I mean, obviously through that work, a big part of that was actually establishing commuting habits, actual and potential, metrics that we've identified from that, which now obviously the hospital are really driving forward, is the fact that 30% of staff could walk to the hospital, 61% could cycle, with the dash subscriptions that are now in there and being used by staff at the hospital. That's clearly having, there is evidence there, alongside using other forms, public transport, the carpooling. I mean, this is about active travel today, but that carpooling that's been introduced into Kings Lynn, 10,000 miles have been saved as a consequence of people sharing their trips. So there's lots of stuff out there. Sam, anything from your side?
Yeah, so typically, as Jamie said, it's difficult to say behavior change, because we know if someone buys a bike or they go on to ownership, but what were they doing before? So we typically see in bike hire around 20% of people who try a bike go on to buy a bike. So you pretty much know that 20% of people will go on to buy a bike of some sort, whether they were driving, whether they're on the train, whether they were walking before. That's the difficult bit. We do look at a kind of FOMO for a bit of a UK based what were people doing before and use those stats. And it's the reason why we teamed up with C-Sense for HSBC, because they needed a little bit more data. With that extra tracking, we know that roughly 75% of the bikes are being used at any one time. So they've got 8 bikes, roughly 75% are being used. And within that, they're sharing them rather than keeping them. So having them for a day rather than having them for the weeks at a time. So they've kind of got the idea, and the bikes are being used, they should be used. And then we know from that 20% of people are potentially going on to buy a bike. It might be higher, might be lower in London. It might be higher, it might be lower in King's Lynn, who knows? So there's some data out there, and you can kind of use those overall UK data metrics to work back. What we do know is each dock, so the actual physical docks we sell with the technology, we know hires. So again, you can use that to go back.
I mean, from again, sort of reflecting on the services that we're offering, that being data driven, understanding that cohort, so doing that work, that origin and destination based activity to establish within a sensible parameter, who is in catchment for cycling, working with that cohort to understand their challenges with cycling and how to overcome that, considering your built environment, what do you need to do to make that experience fantastic, be it subscription, be it bike hire, etc., etc. And then tracking that, measuring through staff travel surveys, but ongoing. We have some wonderful new technology that establishes real time how people travel, so we can see, if there's a shift change in terms of active travel or public transport, we can see that. So yeah, if that's of interest in terms of how do I drive those metrics, I think all of us would be happy to have those conversations with you. A couple of sort of producty type stuff. There's a couple here, Jamie. One from Verlon. Thank you for your question, and also Stephen. So, any plans to offer e-cargo bikes was the first one, and the other one was about micro mobility as well. So, how potentially could you offer this out to e-scooter? If you answer those, I've got one for Sam in a minute.
Yeah, sure. So, so we do have what we would call e-cargo bikes on the fleet. So for families and things like that. The subscription offering software, sorry. We've also got a different side of the business, which is more to do with sort of providing fleets of e-bikes. And again, on that side of the business, we do offer e-cargo bikes. We tend not to offer them to individuals just because of the price point of some of them. They tend to be better suited for sort of organizations looking to deploy them in operational sort of situations. So we do offer that. And then, sorry, what was the other question, Graham?
Yeah, micro mobility.
Oh, yeah, e-scooters. So we don't want to go into the e-scooter space, to be honest with you. Firstly, it's because it's not compliant with cycle to work. So that's obviously a very technical restriction. I've got my own philosophical view, which is that I think getting people onto a bike where they do some exercise has some really positive externalities that we should encourage. But yes, we wouldn't go into the scooter space, I'm afraid.
Super clear. I mean, it's good to clarify these things. Question here from Rachel, which is Brompton based, in terms of, are there storage lockers everywhere? And in fact, one of the questions I had was, I think you mentioned there were 96 locations for your. I was interested, where else? What aspirations in terms of how many? But I think there's a specific one around Gloucestershire. Not aware of any close by to them. So obviously there's a conversation to get some in there. But yeah, just generally, do you have a map or something of where these locations are? Where are you looking to get to in, say, 5 years' time?
So the lockers are a hire-based system. So if you download the Brompton Bike Hire app, you'll see it. And you can hire a bike 24 hours in advance on the day, as long as there's bikes in there. It will show if there's bikes or not. And then you can return them anywhere in the UK. So unlike a bike share system, which is normally city-based, we are UK geofenced. They range from location-wise from Stornoway Island up in Scotland all the way through to Vale of Glamorgan, Barry Islands down in Wales. So, and you can have anywhere in between. The aspirations is to grow it. We aren't in the business of selling big metal boxes just for the sake of it. They've got to be used. The last thing I want to do is use loads of funding to put a metal box somewhere and hope it works. It's not really a good idea. Is it the best way to get people on bikes? No. We know they're great in cities. We know they're great in towns. The 96 locations map is on our Brompton website. So if you're on a Brompton website, you click on the little locations tab in the top right hand corner, and then you can filter by Brompton bike hire locations. Aspirationally, though, we'll have conversations about anywhere, but we won't install anywhere. We have to install where there's demand. We could use potentially where we don't see demand for the bike hire. Maybe that funding could be used for subscription base. So in a small town, instead of putting a locker in, you could say, right, first 100 people that want a bike, here's a bike for a year and we'll pay for it, rather than having a locker. It's all about kind of demand and utilizing the funding properly.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sam. I know, Sam, you've answered a couple of questions live in the chat, so hopefully those answers have come to those individuals. If not, we'll pick them out afterwards. But just looking at stuff that's still open, very good question. How do you fit in with Lime Bike? I think this came through when you were speaking, Sam, initially. So, but maybe there's a comment from Jamie here as well. How do you fit in with Lime Bike? Why would a company pay for this service if the council has a deal with Lime to provide that first last mile multimodal commute? Is data something here? Is there something here about the sort of the data aspects and the control?
Look, we're complementary to Lime Bike, the lockers and the corporate fleets. It's a very different use case. If you're looking at, I want to go from A to B and there's a train in the middle, you don't know whether B is going to have Lime Bike. So you can use your A bit and then you're stuck in a city with potentially nothing. Whereas if you have a Brompton, you can cycle to the station, get the train, and then cycle the Brompton to your client. They're not branded, so it's just a bike, which is great. You're cycling a bike. But if you want to turn up and have a talking point, I always think back to my initial sales career, first day, icebreaker. What better icebreaker than turning up with a branded Brompton to a meeting? Wow. Lime bikes are more expensive for the user. They are. If you're buying a fleet of bikes for your employees, the employees don't pay for it. So happy days. And also you don't own them. So if you're buying a fleet of bikes, Brompton bikes, you're going to own the asset. So there's use cases for them all. If you need a quick, I need to get there really quick and I'm not at the office, you're going to take a Lime bike. If you're going across multiple cities or even countries, you can put a Brompton in the hold of a plane. If you're going to go and visit somebody in, I don't know, Singapore, you could take it to Singapore, absolutely no worries at all, no bother. So they all have their use cases.
But I guess that's where the Dash Flex comes in as well, right? So I mean, your piece there, you could use one for the A piece, and then the last mile use something completely different. So this is fantastic, I think.
And then transition on to how do you own a bike? How do you have something? Maybe a subscription? Maybe someone wants to. Okay, well, I've tried a bike for a day. Now I want it for a month. And now I've had my bike for a month. Now I want to buy one, but I don't want the black bike that I tried for a month. I want a purple bike because I like the bike purple. There you go. That's the best way.
Yeah, I think just to supplement all of that, the reality is that people have different preferences individually, but then each individual person will have different preferences depending on the circumstance. So we've got many users who have a subscription bike that they use for most of their journeys, but they'll also have a Dash Flex because some days they might not want to cycle and have to leave, park their bike up or something like that. They just want to be able to sort of hop on a Lime bike, do a bit of their journey, and then they're sort of off somewhere else. So it's just about having that sort of broad suite of offer of choice for people.
Yeah, fine. There's 2 or 3 questions that are all kind of similar. There's an element of cost. There's an element of getting people out of cars, tackling single occupancy vehicle, that type of stuff. So a question from Rebecca. We'll probably, if I mention them all, we'll try and kind of aggregate them together. So a question here from Rebecca. Thank you. Keen to learn what bike share, hire, Salsac, etc. has achieved to get people out of cars. I think the main hurdle is for people to give up their cars. Otherwise, bike or multimodal use is an additional cost to them. I've got a thought on that one. There's a question here of the evidence of behaviour change switching from single occupancy vehicle, given this is the title of the seminar. Okay, yep, granted. We'll tackle that one. And why would someone subscribe to an e-bike model if they don't have a bike at the end of the period? Seems very expensive for people on low junior salaries who can hardly afford to buy a bike, which I think you covered a little bit, Jamie, in your earlier piece, in terms of that piece. But I mean, I've got one comment about the sort of this yeah, can we someone's using a bike, so therefore have given up a car in the house? Tricky one, but obviously if we're getting to a place where people, and the fundamental part with all of this is getting more people to use their own car less, and so therefore if someone's building into their day that perhaps they're now using a bike a couple of times a week, by default it's costing them less to have that car. There will become a point in time where there isn't that logic to have that vehicle in the car, and obviously what we want to see absolutely is that multi-car households start to reduce the number of cars in their household. I think the starting point is getting them to kind of lighten the grip, use some innovative, subscription type services to begin with. Your stats there, Jamie, about people take it for a month and then having it for 9. That leads into it actually a conversation in somebody's head to say, actually, is it now time for me to get rid of one of those cars? So I think there's something there about the cost piece there that I think it's still saving them money if they're also buying into the fact, and this is what we see at Kings Lynn, people are using the e-bikes. Perhaps if they're then sharing their vehicle on top, so again, getting into that habit of using their own car less, they're halving the cost of their commute when they are driving, and they're getting all the health benefits and everything else associated when they're using the bike. So I think it's a little bit more nuanced, but I think there is definitely savings to be had. You guys?
100% agree. I think so. Looking at our subscription offering, our most affordable e-bike starts at £25 a month for a basic rate taxpayer. That's less than £1 a day. So I don't know what people's parking charges are or fuel bills or anything like that, but you don't have to replace that many car journeys in a given week for the e-bike to have paid for itself. So I don't think it should be seen as a case of you have to get someone to give up a car to make the sort of financial equation work. It's far more in the favor of e-bikes than that. We're not operating at that level of margin. In terms of the sort of affordability of a subscription, as I say, the £25 a month one, you'd have to rent that bike for sort of 5 or 6 years. Once you factor in the insurance and all that sort of stuff, before you'd be in a position where it'd been better off to go with an ownership option. So they are we think, very well priced. We do our absolute level best to sort of push manufacturers incredibly hard to get that price so we can push it, flow it through the system down to the employee base. But yeah, we're really designed them to be very affordable. But it's the other thing is just giving people that flexibility. They're not tied into any sort of lengthy contracts or anything like that, so they can exit them if they need to, and the savings that they make by cycling should more than pay for the cost of it.
I mean, we're seeing it in electrification as well. I would say as well in electric vehicles. Everyone's buying new ones because there's concern in some respects in terms of the technology. What if I'm buying something that in 3 years' time there's now something fantastic on the market and I'm saddled with something? So I think subscription, leasing, they're all ways, efficient use of assets, and actually get the brand new technology. I mean, most of us will will subscribe to a new phone and change our phone every couple of years, not hold on to it for 10.
You make a good point there with behaviors, and young people these days don't really want to buy much. It's all borrowing, renting, trying somebody else's problem to look after it, and that's what we see. So I think the bike industry has been great at selling bikes to people for years. What they're not being great at, and we see this, is understanding that the future is probably not ownership. The future of selling things doesn't really exist anymore. It's a lot of borrowing, a lot of trying, and that's what's salary sacrifice, saving money. But hire and share and subscription really plays into that demographic now. And how do we shape people's behaviors? It's much easier to shape someone's behaviors who's 20 than it is shape someone's behaviors who's 60 and been driving for 40 years. That's really difficult. If you can catch them young, it's much easier. And yet it's a much more cost-effective way of doing it. If you can offer a fleet of bikes and then say, right, here's salary sacrifice or a subscription option, and maybe we'll pay X amount of money, or there's a bit of funding here, or how do we do it? You will change habits for sure. And the e-bikes are really important to that. I'd say e-bikes are super, super important. It's the gateway. Someone called it a gateway drug the other day to cycling. Okay. It's the best gateway drug to cycling. Fine. Yeah, absolutely. It is. If you want to take somebody out of a car and put them on a bike, make them go a little bit quicker, feel a bit more power, go a little bit quicker, less sweaty, etc. There's more benefits. And then it's funny how they'll transition to just a unpowered bike then as well. And I don't think we should concentrate on getting people to give up cars. Actually, we should concentrate on telling people how exciting it is not to be in a car, how better it is to nip through those little rat runs through a city and see, I don't know, see buildings and architecture and have a coffee somewhere you've never been before just because you're on a bike. Whereas if you're in a car, you'd be sat there doing nothing.
I mean, I'm an absolute convert to the e-bikes. I live in Leeds. We've got Beryl. It's become my go-to choice for go and watch. I love sports. Going to watch stuff at Headingley. So on Friday, went to watch rugby league. Took the bike, beat all the cars there. Cost me about £2. Park it up right outside the outside the pub. I can definitely confirm that you do use energy. There's hills and you're going faster than you would normally if it was a push bike, but you're still using energy. So yeah, not quite as sweaty, but still a bit sweaty because it was boiling on Friday. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I wouldn't go back. And to the point now where it doesn't even matter if it's not so nice out there. I'm taking one of those because it's just a lot easier. Just last couple of points because I'm conscious of time. Just practicality wise for both of you, I think, just a final word. I mean, you've got the Brompton and Dash partnership that's come together. But I guess for a lot of our audience, practicality wise, how do they start engaging you? How do you work? Because obviously a lot of the large companies and organizations present today will have employee benefit providers. So perhaps just useful to just kind of really help people understand the process and how that works and how integrated perhaps you are with these.
Sure.
You go. No, you
okay.
go.
So we work with all the major employee benefit platforms. We can work with any employee benefit platform that any given employer may have to fully integrate into their platform. So make it a completely seamless transition for employees landing on that platform onto our Dash store, sharing all the data that needs to go back and forth to make HR and benefits' life as easy as possible. In terms of how to sort of start the conversation with us, the best thing is either drop me an email at jamie@dashrides.com. I'd love to speak with anyone about how we deliver a better cycle to work experience for your organization, or head to our website, which is www.dashrides.com, and then head to the employer section, which they'll find in the top right hand corner of the nav bar.
For us, we work with people like Dash because we aren't an employee benefit platform or any of those kind of technological things. We offer a fleet of bikes, and what's important as well is to know that the kind of pictures of those big brands and huge budgets I'm thinking people have got, actually be surprised that a lot of the SMEs and smaller businesses have the same budgets for bikes as the big ones sometimes, with the exception of Prudential maybe. But some of the big ones I showed, the budgets are very similar across the board. They don't invest a lot in bikes to begin with. What they do is they invest a small amount and then they grow, and that's what we do with them. They might have 5 or 10 max, and then they have another 5 or 10 because the demand increases. So please don't be put off by the big expensive things that I went through on my presentation. It'd be good to have a conversation about what exactly you'd like to do as a company, as an organization. Is it move thousands of people around, or is it actually we've got 3 or 4 people that want to try bikes? It's a very different proposition, and we work across the board. I've got a PR agency in London with 10 staff, and they have 3 bikes, and they have a corporate subscription, so they pay per month, all the way up to Prudential behind me, and they buy 200 bikes. Bit of a kind of a blue whale of a company, and it doesn't happen very often, those things. So we've got products that match all budgets pretty much, and also that match all use cases. So reach out to me for sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm an absolute LinkedIn freak. Or if you'd like to email me, it's sam.coldham@brompton.co.uk. It's super simple. Pop me an email. Let's kind of go through exactly what you want to do, and then we can go from there.
Brilliant. And I can confirm you are a LinkedIn freak. You're always on it. It's great. I'm quite active on it. I mean, the last thing I'd say is, if you're struggling with the business case or thinking about, the size of cohorts that can actually take use of bikes, come talk to Mobility Ways, because we can help you understand that. The work that we do to kind of understand commuting habits, understand potential, and then translate that into reduction plans, incorporating modes of transport, can really be supportive in terms of getting visibility and understanding within your organisation about the potential for it. So that would be my last passing word. Fantastic. We've done the hour. Thank you both for your time, Sam, Jamie. Brilliant as always. And thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.